Welcome to our third and final day of IGN's live coverage from Gamescom here in Germany. Let's kick off day 3 with Call of Duty World War II. Sean here is the multiplayer lead on the game. What are you guys sharing with all the fans here at Gamescom this year?
So we got some really cool things that we're talking about this year. Kind of the big 3 things that we're kind of covering here. Big new features for us this year. We've got Headquarters, which is a kind of a new social space for players where you get to kind of interact with other players, show off your gear, jump into the firing range, which is now kind of a cooperative, competitive kind of thing. You're going to see other players in there. Do your score streak training. It's just a big new addition for us, just adding a little more social component between matches kind of thing.
Cool.
Divisions, which is another big one for us, complete replacement of the created class system. So Pick 10 is now replaced by Divisions, which is going to bring in some kind of history. We want to do that anywhere we can, bring in that history. So you're going to see iconic divisions like Airborne, Infantry Division, Armored Division. That's something that we're really excited about. And then War Mode is the other big one, which is a brand new asymmetrical, objective-driven, kind of narrative-based multiplayer gameplay experience for the first time in Call of Duty MP.
Sure. So how do you find that balance of sort of the classic Call of Duty kind of customization options that you see the community lean into all the time, and the history angle that you're taking here?
Yeah, so that's actually been a really cool opportunity for us. Like I said, we want to bring in history anywhere we can. So the gear that we've been able to make, we've got all this rich history of these different uniforms of different divisions from different nations and everything like that. And there's plenty there for players to explore for sure. So it's been just a great challenge and a great opportunity and an honor actually to get into this history and be able to bring this to our players. So.
Let's dive into Headquarters. That was just barely teased when Call of Duty World War II was unveiled earlier this year.
Right.
So it's a social space for players to hang out in between matches.
Yeah.
Right. And it can hold up, what is it, up to like 50 players at once?
48 players.
48 players.
48 players. Yeah, it's really cool. So basically, the setting for it is it's on Omaha Beach, D-Day +3. So after the invasion, you're seeing all the the naval ships pulled up on the beach. You get this kind of epic vista of this war machine kind of gearing up for the push into Normandy. And that's the setting for Headquarters. So yeah, you're buddying up with your friends. There's things that you can do there. The 1v1 pit, which is really cool. If you've played enough Call of Duty, you've heard 1v1 me, bro, right? How many times by somebody? And now you can jump into Headquarters and 1v1. There's kind of a cool pick ban system where you get to you get 3 choices and you can ban one thing and then the other guy bans one thing and then you go in with the same same weaponry. So it's cool. Yeah.
So how did you guys sort of decide on a real world environment to bring the community to have them all kind of hang out
for Headquarters?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously we want to make sure it's a a visually rich and interesting environment. And when you think World War II, one of the first things people think of is Normandy, right? So and you get that scene. We thought of films like Saving Private Ryan, where they have that scene after the invasion, things are kind of settled down and they're bringing in all their gear and all their supplies and troops, and so we just felt like that was a really natural fit. You get the space for it, So
it's kind of like a hub world for you to hang out in before you go out on your quests and your missions.
Exactly.
Kind of like
Yeah.
How big is the space?
It's a pretty good size. I mean, there's multiple different areas. There's different areas where you're going to go pick up your orders, challenges, things like that. There's you can prestige inside Headquarters. There's kind of a separate little prestige area. Once you prestige, you get access to another kind of closed off area, which is something really cool. It's a good amount of space, and with 48 players in there, it's just the social opportunities, to group up with new people and have those interactions that I think players are starting to expect across all genres of gaming now. That little bit more social experience, and it really started with Advanced Warfare for us. With we brought kind of customizable characters into the game for the first time. And the ability to just kind of express yourself in those ways, and with the virtual lobby, and this is kind of like the next evolution of that kind of concept, just bringing that to the next step.
I think you mentioned a firing range in there as well.
Yeah.
That you can participate in competitively.
Yeah, so when you think of the firing range from Advanced Warfare, it was kind of, you could jump into the firing range and test out your weapons, but it was a solo experience. And now we're bringing that social component to that as well. So when you walk up to the firing range, there's other players lined up there, testing out their gear and shooting at targets, and there's kind of target shooting sequences that you can go through, and you can kind of compete with each other.
So you can potentially have like 48 players all lined up doing the firing range at the same time.
48 players all at the firing range at once might
be a little long.
Yeah, that might get a little crowded.
Yeah, that sounds insane.
Yeah. Oh, the other cool thing too is leaderboards. So around the headquarters, you're going to see these big blackboards that are populated by the players that are present there in your headquarters that you're in, so you can see who's got the top score in TDM and all these key modes in the game, and kind of see how you rank there. And it's cool when you show up there on the leaderboard.
Yeah, very cool.
in your headquarters. So.
Okay, so tell us about War Mode.
War Mode, something I'm super excited about it. Brand new gameplay experience for Call of Duty MP, and what we wanted to do is kind of put players into what feels like kind of the truest version of a World War II battle in Call of Duty MP. And so you've got, for the first time, a narrative-driven, asymmetric multiplayer experience. And so each one of these maps, they're custom-built for this experience. And in each map, there's kind of a main mission objective, the thing that you're there to accomplish, and it makes sense, and they're historically based. So the map that we're showing here at Gamescom is going to be in the beta, which kicks off tomorrow, is called Operation Breakout, and it's based on the Allied push out of the beachhead and deeper into Normandy as part of the invasion of Normandy. And so your primary mission objective is to destroy a battery of Flak 88s. And so you're doing all these things that real soldiers did in World War II. You're capturing forward territory, you're building a bridge to allow your tank to roll across and move forward, you're destroying an enemy ammo supply, and then finally you're escorting your tank, so you get that cool, like, infantry and armored, working together. You can jump into the machine gun turret on top of the tank, and as you move forward, as an infantry guy, you're using the tank as cover moving forward. And then ultimately you're escorting that tank to the end of its path, and then it gets within range of the artillery guns and takes them out.
So you mentioned that's narrative driven. How is that sort of communicated to players? Is it through cutscenes, voiceover?
Yeah, so a little bit of both. So you're going to have an intro for both the Allied and the Axis side that kind of establishes the setting. You're going to hear voiceover coming from kind of a commanding officer that's giving you the context for everything. Okay, guys, we're here to take out these artillery pieces, capture the forward operating center, and kind of kicks it off, and then you get that kind of continues throughout. So we communicate it that way through voiceover dialogue. And then at the end, depending on whether you won or you lost, you get a different outro. So in this case, either the flak guns are shooting down the Allied planes if the Allies fail, or the tank is coming in and actually taking out the artillery pieces, and you get that nice kind of final flourish.
I like that because it feels like it's bringing in some of the sort of thematic sections of the single-player campaign into the multiplayer campaign.
Yeah, for sure. And storytelling is very important to us across the game. And people don't think of story in MP, but we tell little stories everywhere we can. And war is just a bigger, broader way for us to do that, since it's kind of tied together by that narrative.
I think historically, when you think about World War II, you do think that it is sort of like methodical but also chaotic, but mostly slow. But your game is quick. So how do you sort of reach that point?
Yeah. So I mean, our players have come to expect a fast-paced, fairly frenetic multiplayer experience, and World War II is delivering that for sure. Going back to World War II does change some things, right? We're back to our roots. We're back to boots on the ground. So it kind of brings different kind of tactical elements into the equation that have kind of not left the game entirely, but haven't been quite to the forefront as much in recent games. And so we're excited to kind of bring that back and have that balance of the fast-paced multiplayer action that people expect, but also the World War II, strong World War II grounding and theming. So
you're striving for accuracy in all the weapons and equipment, vehicles, and all the settings.
Yes.
But I have to imagine at Sledgehammer you have these assets available for some more futuristic weaponry. Are you ever like tempted? But it'd be really fun to have a laser rifle of some sort.
No, I mean honestly, like working on Advanced Warfare was an awesome experience for the team, and now being able to go back to World War II, it's just it's a different thing. It's in the future games you're kind of you're experimenting. There's a lot of creativity. And here we get to kind of immerse ourselves in the history and the authenticity of these things. And the team actually got to get their hands on these guns, actually got to go out to a firing range and shoot these guns, feel what they feel like in your hands, feel the weight of the guns, record the audio so that, and like things like the ping of the magazine coming out of the M1 Garand is just such an iconic sound. And it's cool to hear that in multiplayer because if you hear that sound, your enemy's reloading right now, so it's kind of the time to get the jump on them.
It's like Call of Duty in general by some of the more negative fans gets referred to as iterative, but I think the fact that you guys can go and say, hey, we worked on this futuristic property, and then switch your entire creative flow and work on something like this, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, going back to World War II, there's certain things, you get a little bit of the old and a little bit of the new. You get the classic, right? That classic boots on the ground Call of Duty, but also the opportunities that we have now with new technology and the ability, like we could have never done a 48-player headquarters experience like this back when the last World War II game was 10 years ago in COD World at War.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just been awesome, and we're really happy with that balance that we've been able to strike of new experiences mixed kind of with the classic.
We just saw the player here a few minutes ago. It looked like they built up a wall. Is that
Yes.
true? And then it actually created like a bottleneck that he was able to force the enemies into, and then he
Yes.
just burned them all.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that mechanic?
Yeah, so in war mode...
Bottleneck and burn, I think is what we should call
Yeah,
it.
bottleneck and burn, yeah. So in war mode, you do have the ability to build walls that can kind of funnel off gameplay.
Yeah.
For the ammo depot in particular, let's see yeah, this is it right here, actually. So you're here to destroy the enemy ammo depot, and as the defending team, you want to get these walls built up so that you funnel the attacking forces so that you're able to better kind of fend them off. And it's interesting too because it'll flip. The usefulness of these barricades will flip depending on control. So once the attackers have the bomb planted here in the depot, you can see this guy's fighting towards one of those walls. Once you've got those walls down, you can plant dynamite on them and blow them down once they've been built up. You get the bomb on the ammo depot, and then you can build the walls back up as the attacking side to hold back the defenders. So there's an interesting kind of counterplay there.
Do you
Yeah, ends
find
up being a lot of
players
fun.
will sort of like fall into certain roles where like you have people who are kind of on the front line, you have others who sort
Yes.
of play more defensive?
Yes, and that's where one thing that I love is kind of the interplay of divisions and war mode, right? Where team composition really matters in war mode. You want to make sure that you've got players fulfilling all those roles. You get your airborne guys that are in there with SMGs on the objectives, and you get your mountain division that's more kind of sniper based, hanging back, providing that ranged support. It's really interesting, and you feel compelled to switch things up as you go. You're going to want to change your division, your weapon loadout, your tactical and lethal loadout, depending on the objective. And that's one thing I really love about war mode.
I like the idea of somebody buying Call of Duty and being like, I'm not really into like shooting, but I love wall building.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And war mode really does kind of downplay the lone wolf, I'm all about my KD. Right? We don't even display KD in war mode.
Oh, wow.
So you don't see your deaths. You see your kills, you see your objective, how many objectives you've completed, how many things you've built. So we want to communicate those things because we do want to encourage players to perform those team actions that benefit the team.
Yeah, so we see on the left side of the screen, escort the tank, and the percentage keeps going up and down. Is that showing you the progress the tank is making?
Yeah, so as your allied forces are standing near the tank is making forward progress. And if the defenders are able to clear everybody away, after a brief kind of moment, the tank will start kind of backtracking back into its territory. So you have that kind of push-pull dynamic to the gameplay. This gets super intense, and the closer the tank gets to the end of its path, there you go, some flamethrower action there you were just talking about.
Oh no.
And it builds and builds, and as the tank gets closer to the end of its, getting closer to the artillery, the intensity just ratchets up because the action's getting closer, and you get that final push, and there's an overtime mechanic. Which is really cool. So you get those tense moments of like, oh, we're almost there. Time is actually out, right?
Yeah.
But you've still got the overtime clock there as long as you're making forward progress on the objective. So you get these really, really cool, just climactic moments.
Now, in terms of sort of the art direction, the assets that we're seeing, everything feels like really cohesive. Was there sort of a lot of attention to detail in looking at old guns, looking at like the way walls were built, looking at the way even these barrels look? Like, how did you bring all that world together?
Absolutely. I mean, there's been just so much research that's gone into this game. I mean, the team has gotten to travel to some of these locations, most of them actually. The team spent time in Ardennes Forest, and it's one of the maps that we have in the beta, and we're showing here at Gamescom. They got to go to Normandy, Gibraltar to really touch and feel and see these places up close. And yeah, everything that we do, we want to bring a level of authenticity to it. And it's a balance. It's Call of Duty MP, but we want to make sure that players feel like this is World War II in a multiplayer experience.
Well, this feels like a very robust package because you have your single-player campaign, and then you have your multiplayer, you have headquarters, you have war mode, you have zombies also, which you haven't touched on. It's like, I don't know, it seems like you're packing a lot.
There's a lot there. Yeah, it's kind of how the evolution of Call of Duty's gone, right? I mean, these new offerings kind of come in and they become staples that our fans kind of expect, and we always want to bring the new things as well. So the package kind of grows, and it's great. I mean, there's a little something for everybody.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot to do in this game,
for sure.
I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
In headquarters, you can even watch other players open loot boxes. Is that right?
That's right.
You can even turn that into sort of a social experience.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. So that's another just cool social. You get the excitement of like, oh, hey, what did you get? Yeah, it's cool stuff.
Cool. So that's a quick look at Call of Duty World War II here at Gamescom. Sean, thank you so much for coming by the show.
Thank you.
The beta begins tomorrow?
Beta begins tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah, jump in.
Cool.
Pre-order. Get
And
in there.
The game is out November 3rd.
November 3rd.
Cool.
Yes.
All right, stay tuned. Much more to come from day 3 of our live coverage from Gamescom right after this.